Hey, good morning, everybody. Trust you guys are doing well. It's turned a little bit chilly here in central Vermont, but that's why we have wood stoves and things to keep us active during this COVID-19 quarantine, I suppose. Um, we're waiting on Taylor Coppenrath to join. I'm excited about having him on the program again. Giving a little bit of background is probably 7 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. I was actually on a local radio station, and I found that it was quite the opportunity not only to interview local um, coaches and people within our own community, but also to talk to other guests from across the country that have made a difference or have a story that I feel is worth telling. And so, um, during this quarantine, I just thought it'd be fun to bring back some of those guests and also to invite others to be a part of the program. So if there's anybody that you would like to hear their story, just leave a message either on Facebook or um, Instagram, Twitter. Trying to think where else you could do that. You could also email me and do some different things as well. So yeah, I apologize for stuttering around again, waiting for Taylor to join the program. We have Eric Berry from um, Linden Institute joining tomorrow. He's going to talk a little bit about what's taking place locally here in Vermont with some of the colleges possibly closing. The state colleges used to be Linden State and Johnson State, what that looks like, how they could merge with Castleton, and figuring all of those details out as well. So I think it'll be an interesting interview. Uh, we hope to be live at 1:30 tomorrow with Eric. And so you could just mark your calendar for that. And more as I get underway, I hope to better communication upcoming. Right now, we're just kind of going to repost and let people see what's been done following the fact. And so Alex Wolf is going to be joining on Thursday. He was with the um, uh, Vermont Frost Heaves, brought them to the state, back-to-back ABA champions. And then he was with Sports Illustrated a very long time. And so he's going to be joining on Thursday morning at 11:30. So we're excited about that. Also tonight, I have Ian Zumbeck. And so he's a musician. He's going to be joining the program later this evening. And so if you're wondering, like most of you, some of you know that I'm a pastor. Some of you know that I'm, quote, religious. What are these interviews going to be? They're going to be a mix. They're going to be a lot of sports, a lot of movie culture. And I do like music, so I hope to bring in some other musicians and artists as well. It's pretty amazing just to see how much access you do have to people. People are very generous with their time and willing to join and jump on. And so we're excited about that. And so if you have others that you would like to see on, just leave a comment, send me a note. Chris Stevens, always good to see you. Hope you can come on. Congratulations on your child, and trust everybody's healthy and doing well. I just wanted to break for a moment, talk about The Last Dance. I don't know how many of you saw that on Sunday evening, but a couple things that jumped out to me that I did not know. And I think I'm a pretty good sports fan. I graduated high school in 93, graduated college in 97. So it was certainly during those times. But I didn't realize Scottie Pippen came from a family of 12. I didn't realize that one of his siblings was in a wheelchair as well as his father after that stroke. That was pretty nuts to hear about. And then that contract, I think it was 7 years for $18 million. Yeah, it seems like a ton of money, but $18 million, 7 years, it was a different time in the NBA. There was a chart, I should have looked it up, but when Jordan was making about 32, 33 million a year, and then Scottie Pippen was making under 3 million a year. Just a discrepancy, but as that Last Dance broadcast brought out, he did sign it. And what can you do when something's signed? There's an agreement. And it'd be interesting to hear some of your comments. And I got to figure out how to take phone calls. Maybe I do have to make it more of a podcast or a radio broadcast than what it is now. But just what would you do if you realize, wow, 2 years into the deal, like what a terrible contract that is compared to other players. It was interesting too for me just to figure out or to hear people say that no, Scottie Pippen was the second best player in the NBA during that time frame. Jordan obviously was the first. I think he is the GOAT, the greatest of all time. There's just things that he could do during that era that nobody could stop him. And I think with his drive, that first step, the Mamba mentality, it would have been difficult to stop Jordan in any era just because he was able to adapt. He was athletic enough to just be a part and to do any of that. So it's just pretty wild to see that Scottie Pippen, the 122nd highest paid player in the NBA at that time. Pretty crazy. Now, the question is, was he one of the 50 best of all time? I think that is debatable. I think being on that team with Michael Jordan certainly helped. It lifted him to a place where if he was an individual star, not his own team, I'm not sure if he would have achieved that just because, I'm trying to think of comparisons. Vince Carter I love because I'm a North Carolina Tar Heel fan, but you look at Vince Carter, you even look at Grant Hill. He was probably on the path or on the way to that proclamation, but just injuries. And Scottie Pippen, those 2 years Jordan was gone, he wouldn't even go into the game. I stole this from Doug Gottlieb. He was interviewing Ryan Russillo, who was a UVM grad as well. But he was just talking about the fact that Tony Kukoc got the thumbs up from the coach. It wasn't even Scottie Pippen. So how can you say Pippen was the second best player in the NBA when Phil Jackson wouldn't even give him the winning shot? Maybe there's more to that, but I just thought that was interesting. I just think about during this quarantine, no live sports, how it's just pretty difficult to think about the return to normal. I do love all the highlights being shown of the past championship games, the special games, and being in New England, I think we're spoiled from all sports, whether it's just basketball or the Patriots, whatever the case might be. And so to go back and look at the Chicago Bulls and how dominant they were, but also to realize that since that season, they have not been relevant since. I mean, Derrick Rose brought some excitement. You look at some of the other players that were just pretty phenomenal to watch, but certainly did not have the talent or chemistry as a team to get them to that point. It was just revealing, to say the least. And so I'm actually going to sign off and going to try to reconnect with Taylor, and hopefully you guys stay with me and stick with this. But Chris, it's great to see you on. I'm trying to figure out how we can do more of a chat. Charles Barkley definitely was the league MVP in '93. It was unfortunate. I really have to admit, I was pulling for that Phoenix Suns team. Dan Marley going to Central Michigan. I loved him. I used to say, probably racist now, that he was my favorite white player in the NBA. I love number 9, Thunder Dan. It was just so amazing. Then you had Richard Dumas, who certainly started games. He had his problems off the court, but just to have a player at his level, just to be a part was phenomenal. And that was a team that I was hoping would take out the Chicago Bulls, but it was Paxson that hit that shot at the end. Man, and who would you take? Would you take Horace Grant or Dennis Rodman? Horace Grant or Dennis Rodman? I mean, I really like that first three-peat the Chicago Bulls put on. Was that a better run, in your opinion, versus the second three-peat? Obviously, they were older, different cast of characters, but I just thought that first three-peat, maybe it's because it was the first, that it just made it so much more enjoyable. Anyway, hey, thanks again. Hopefully this broadcast is a great test to see if it went to the YouTube channel as well. You can check that out, and we'll be back shortly. Thanks again for joining us and checking in. Okay, all the best.